Today on Music 301, we're going to talk about beginning guitar. What are some of the core things you should know when you start playing? It's not an easy instrument to play, especially at first, because your guitar is going out of tune and you're just trying to keep it in tune. The action's super high on your guitar, and it's just very difficult to play. And a lot of people end up, quitting playing because of that. Some simple things. One, especially when you first start, and especially if it's a young person starting, their hands aren't quite as strong. When you try and hold, let's say, an F chord, it's very difficult for them because usually the action's too high on the guitar. The first thing I would do to any guitar, if I was just starting, I would take it to a guitar tech, and they can just do a simple setup, tell them to put low action and either medium gauge strings, which are 9 to 42s, or light strings, depending on the age of the student, maybe 8 gauge strings, that type of thing. This way, when they hold like an F chord or these lower chords, or even up here, the action's not going to be too high. They'll be able to hold down and articulate every note. Where usually what happens is they'll choke a note or two because of the problem of holding down the hand on the neck, because it kind of hurts your hand a little bit when you first start getting used to holding chords. Second thing is how to hold the pick. The pick goes between the thumb and first finger. You leave just enough out so you can comfortably pick the notes. Some people they start and they hold too much out, and it's hard to control the pick. This gives you the most control while still being able to articulate the notes. Okay. Another basic is that people sometimes don't teach is that when you play, your hand is kind of like an arm on a record player. So it kind of does this kind of deal. There's a pivot point. So if I try and play free, and my hand is out here, and I don't have it braced to anything, it's very hard to be accurate. But when you have a pivot point here, but now you don't want to go too far forward, or else you choke the notes. You don't want to do that. You want to be just far back enough so that the notes articulate. But if you notice, my hand still stays bridged there, and it goes back and forth like this. So I have a pivot point, a point where it's secure, and you're going to play more accurate that way. So that's a big thing. Probably the biggest part of all is practicing with a metronome. I can't stress that enough. You must practice with a metronome, because no matter how good you are, if you can't play in time, it's all worthless. You have to play in time. So let me turn on a metronome. There's a million metronome apps. I'm just turning one on my phone there. So when you're practicing, you want to go. So everything's on the downbeat, or dividing them into 16th notes or 8th notes or whatever, which you'll learn later. First, you're not going to understand what that is. While that's clicking, you want to do some of your exercises, but always do the exercises with the metronome going, so you're playing in time. For example, if I'm doing, and by the way, you can look online, there's so many picking exercises that are available. I'm just going to give you the most basic one. So we'll turn the metronome back on. So you're just starting. We want to build strength in this left hand that's fretting, and coordination. You want to know how to pick and build a coordination between the right and left hand, so they're in sync with each other. So we can turn the metronome even way down. So we're going to do a chromatic exercise. So when Those are chromatic exercises going to build dexterity between the right hand and the left hand. Then what you want to do after you're done, you go to the next fret. All the way to as high as you can play on your guitar and all the way back down. Now if your hand tenses up, stop. It's not like weightlifting. Pain is not good. You want to take your hand, shake it out, let the blood flow, stretch it. Don't hurt your hand because there's so many tendons and ligaments and things that you can harm yourself greatly if you don't pay attention. So that's to get you started on picking. The other thing about picking is from the start, you must alternate pick. Well, I'm not going to say you must. You can really do anything you want. But my suggestion is focus on alternate picking, which all that means is downstroke, upstroke, downstroke, upstroke. Always down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. It's kind of like walking or running, right? You don't take your right foot out twice and your left foot out twice. You're going right, left. Same thing. This is how you become efficient at picking. And don't let the pick go out too far. Don't like exaggerate. I mean, unless it's for emphasis in a part of a song or whatever. But generally, don't exaggerate the motion. You're going to hit other strings. You're going to get sloppier, and you're wasting energy that could be going towards hitting the next note. So you want to be as efficient as possible. Don't go too far past as soon as you play the note. So that's a big part of it. The other thing is there's also legato. So you don't have to always pick every note. There are guys that are great at legato, guys like Joe Satriani and Alan Holdsworth and these guys where you pick the first note and hammer on the rest, or you pick the first and pull off the other ones. That type of thing. So you got the legato, you got the single note picking, and then the next part is the strumming part. Now I'm not going to talk about how to form the chords as far as the individual chords. Now there's a lot of videos online, you can see that, but I'm going to show you how to practice those chords. So let's take some basic chords. A C, a G, a D, and an A. Okay. When you strum, instead of, there's some people that strum from the arm. It just looks like they're tense while they're playing. The easiest way to strum is your right hand should look like you're shaking water off of it. Like your hand is wet and you're shaking off water. So when I'm playing, right, so when I'm... It's like I'm shaking off water. It's an efficient way of playing. It's very, very, very comfortable. So if you were strumming these chords, the C, or let's say so it's just a very efficient way of strumming. If you get used to that, you can get really fast at it and do the 16th note triplets and fast things. But that's building your foundation as a player. That builds your foundation. Another thing is to practice. So you're going to have a hard time at first. You're going to say, okay, well, I'm learning a C chord, I'm learning a G chord. And it's going to be very... It's hard to memorize that my fingers go here. Okay, now my fingers got to go here, and they got to go in time, and blah, blah, blah. The best way to practice that, again, we go back to the metronome, and you strum the first chord on the one. So if you're counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hit it on the 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. So you're using the first beat to hit the chord. The next 3 you're using to get your hand in position so you can hit the next chord in time. So then when you get fast enough of that, you cut it down to 2 beats. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I went over on that one, I'm sorry. But then you cut it down to 1 beat. You use 3 of the beats. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That 1 beat gives you a chance to get back in position. Then when you're really good at it, then you hold for all 4 beats and make the change fast. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry about the stray note in there. But so that's, and then once you get that down, speed up the tempo. So take the 1, 2, 3, 4. And then once you get that down, you can increase the progression, add more chords to it. The key is playing in time and using that metronome, and that will get your hands used to using different chords, to changing chords. I mean, especially as the chords get more complex, that's becomes very important. So if you just learned like an E major 9 chord to, let's say, A major 7th to a D major 9, so you want to go 1, 2, 3, 4. The G13 there, but the point is use the metronome, because they get a little tricky with these chords, and some of the chords, like if you're, they're hard to grab quickly, but practicing with the metronome and using the 4 beats and only hitting the first beat, using the next 3 to get in position for the next chord, and then cutting it down 3, 2, 1. That was probably one of the best lessons I got when I was at Musicians Institute, because don't forget, your mind will memorize a mistake. So if you start, you ever notice when you try and start learning a song, let's say, and every time you get to the one part, you mess up, and then you play it again, you get to the one part, you mess up. What's going on is your brain is memorizing a mistake, and you repeat that mistake every time. So you need to slow things down so that you get them perfect. Speed will come in time, but you have to get it down perfect first, and then you'll be able to play things much faster and much cleaner. The other thing is that I know people generally don't talk about this, but practice standing up. Because when you go to play a gig, see, when you sit down, this guitar is closer to you, and whether it's legato licks or whatever, they're easier to play because the neck's closer to you. They're closer to you. The neck's like right here, you're sitting down, you're comfortable. When you stand up, the neck's in a different position, it's moving while you're playing, and you got to get used to that, especially if you want to be a live player. You're going to be playing gigs and doing things, and you're going to want to, you're going to be moving around, and you're going to be, the neck's going to be here, it's going to be here, your strap's going to start slipping a little bit while you're playing. You got to get used to that for when you play live, or like I said, even just, jamming around the house. It's nice to be able to stand up. Just makes a big difference standing up and playing. Other than that, be patient. It is not. It takes time to learn. Sometimes it's going to be frustrating because you hear all these songs that you love and you're trying to do them and you don't sound anything like it, but you will get there. And first and foremost, have fun playing. That's the name of the game, is to enjoy what you do. Don't, are we serious that we want to learn and get better at what we're doing? Absolutely. But you know what? If it's not fun, it's not worth anything. So hopefully that helps you out, and we'll see you next time on Music 301.